Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my updated Euro 2024 predictions. Now, the reason why I'm doing an updated prediction video, which will probably be followed with the final prediction video, is because we now know 3 more teams that have qualified for the tournament. Poland, Ukraine, and Georgia. Congratulations to all of these countries, especially Georgia, because this will be their debut in the tournament. Obviously, lovely to see these sides have just played each other in the Euro qualifier playoffs. I got 1 out of 3 predictions of those correct. I thought Wales and Greece would go through. I know most people went for Greece in that playoff path. So I love to see Georgia proving so many people wrong, and it's going to be interesting to see how they perform at this Euro tournament. But it's not just these teams we have to go over. The entire international break featured loads of friendlies. Now, obviously, friendlies shouldn't be weighed as highly as competitive matches, but still we do have to readdress some things and see some updates for each of the national teams, how they've been progressing throughout the last few months. And yeah, like I said, these are not my final thoughts. I will be releasing one more prediction video right before the tournament begins, but in between now until then, I will be releasing a lot more Euro 2024 content. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and drop an early like. If this video gets 5,000 likes, I will be doing a part 2 going over the knockouts. In this video in specific, I will be only going over the group stage. Anyway, let's get into it, starting off with Group A. Of course, we have Germany, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland. Now, last time I went for an absolutely ambitious take saying Scotland would top the group. I'm starting to very much question myself on this pick. Don't get me wrong, they were fantastic in the Euro qualifiers, had a great first half of those group stage matches. But once some injuries became a thing, they started to fall off a little bit, and they just picked up another massive injury in this international break. Their best player, Robertson, picked something up in their second friendly, where they lost to Northern Ireland in that match, a side that has been very much struggling lately. And prior to that, don't get me wrong, they were not the favorites in this matchup, but they did lose to Netherlands 4-0 even when Robertson was fit. This group is already extremely tough to predict. I claim that Germany might struggle here as their 2023 matches were horrendous. They lost so many against sides that they should have been putting a result against. Cycling through managers as well, they sacked Hansi Flick and brought in Nagelsmann, who continued to struggle with the team, but in this international break in 2024, Germany have excelled. They scheduled 2 friendlies against other European giants, France and Netherlands, and beat them both. Words with an absolute screamer within 7 seconds of the match. On paper, this side were already deemed to be the strongest out of all of these teams, but due to their 2023 results, I put them a bit lower. But I can see improvement within this team, and they already have a lot of great individual quality. The only problem was they wouldn't gel well together. They struggled to show some passion, but right now, I think they are determined to improve. There's no denying that Wirtz and Musiala are some of the best youngsters in the world. In fact, they might be the best players on this current German national team. Another key talking point is that Toni Kroos has returned from international retirement. It only gives the side more experience and leadership along with all of the young talent that has been incredible lately. Obviously, these were just friendlies that Germany just won, but the scores that we were assessing earlier were also just friendlies as they automatically qualified for Euro 2024. We haven't seen them play in any competitive matches recently. Hungary's international break consisted of a 1-0 victory against Turkey and 2-0 against Kosovo. I still don't want to write them off in this group. They're always heavily tested, put in difficult groups in European competitions. Last time in the Euros, it was even more of a difficult task, which they failed to achieve, but they put off incredible fights. But then the Nations League group of death, they excelled, finishing 2nd place. Switzerland's international break was slightly underwhelming. They didn't lose any matches, but 1-0 draw along with a 1-0 victory against Ireland, so they only scored 1 goal the entire break. And not to mention, they were slightly disappointing in the Euro qualifiers, looked to be easy favorites to top that group, and they finished 2nd place behind Romania. That being said, it's never a good idea to write off this side. They usually make it to the knockout rounds in major international tournaments, and in the last Euro tournament, they made it all the way to the quarterfinals, getting knocked out on penalties to Spain. To me, this is one of the most difficult groups to call in the Euro tournament. Germany have been improving, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're still guaranteed to get first place. All of these other nations in this group are extremely underrated. Scotland have been declining, but they could come back. Who knows? We still have a good amount of time away till the tournament kicks off. This might be one of my biggest contrasts to my last video, but here's how I'm going to place it for now. Again, subject to change. Germany 1st, Hungary 2nd, Switzerland 3rd, and Scotland 4th. But Switzerland will qualify for the next round. As in case you didn't already know, 4 of the 6 third-place teams do advance to the knockouts. But yeah, I'm going for a massive change here from Scotland 1st place to 4th. We'll see though, maybe they can go in another good spurt of form once the tournament begins. Moving on to Group B, the group of death with Spain, Italy, Croatia, and Albania. You've got 2 World Cup winners, a World Cup finalist, and an underdog that everyone seems to be writing off, but judging their Euro qualifier performances, that is just a terrible idea. They topped that group very nicely, scoring some absolute bangers in the qualifier campaign, but recently it has not been going smooth sailing for Albania. They lost 3-0 to Chile in a friendly in the last international break, a side that many people have been criticizing their performances on, and then lost to Sweden 1-0, which isn't the end of the world, but this is a side that failed to qualify for the Euro tournament themselves. Still though, Albania are very unpredictable. I initially predicted that they would not advance to this tournament. Poland and Czech Republic would be over them due to their poor Nations League performances prior to the qualified campaign. And they ended up bossing it. Now it's friendlies. Maybe they're not taking it as seriously. That's why it's really hard to judge all of these recent matches. But still, like I said, this is the group of death. Albania have really been unfortunate in this draw. It's going to be very tough to compete against all of these teams, although they should still continue to believe. Croatia in this last international break won their first ever international trophy. It wasn't a major one, but still a trophy nevertheless, after playing some kind of friendly tournament in Cairo, Egypt. They played 2 matches, a 0-0 draw that went to penalties against Tunisia, and then a 4-2 victory against a solidless Egypt. Italy scheduled 2 friendlies against South American nations Venezuela and Ecuador, where they got 2 solid victories, and Spain did as well against arguably tougher teams, Colombia and Brazil. They lost to Colombia 1-0 and then drew with Brazil 3-3. I don't think the loss against Colombia was that massive of a statement though. It was just a 1-0 defeat, and Colombia are in some serious hot form right now. Spain might not be able to get 9 for 9 points in this group, but I still have the feeling that they'll top it. I think recently they have been proving that they are the side to show that they are the most consistent. Sure, they have some random slip here and there, but it just allows the national team to wake up and continue to progress. Maybe they'll fall short to second, but I'm going to play it safe and say they get first place. The identity of play that this team possesses is just one of its own, and a lot of individual talent is continuing to excel, such as Grimaldo and Leverkusen. Yamal is making more and more headlines. Raji, one of the best center defensive mids in the world. Could be wrong, of course, but I'm going to keep Spain as my pick for first place. I believe I said that last time as well. And for second place, I'm still sticking with Croatia. This country is just so tough to predict on what's going to happen. I could see them losing to Albania, but then beating Spain and Italy somehow. They always love to scare their fans and then end up somehow doing the job at the end. So I think they have what it takes to progress to the next round despite some flaws on the team. The biggest one I think is lacking a proper consistent striker. But at moments, our options do pull through. Petkovic has given us some unbelievable memories, such as equalizing against Brazil in the World Cup. Budimir, who I had negative thoughts of at first, has really been excelling in La Liga recently, getting some very solid numbers. And he's also the ultimate reason why we ended up qualifying for Euro 2024 after scoring the only goal against Armenia on the last match day. As long as Dalic doesn't make some crazy decisions for that back line, I think that Croatia have what it takes to get second place. So I'm keeping that order just like in the last video. The Italians were really not happy with me because I said that they would be one of the third place teams to not advance to the next round in the last video. I'm still saying they get third place. Spalletti is doing a solid job, and I think he has what it takes to continue the rise for this team. And that new generation is simply emerging. Very solid defenders including Bastoni, Di Marco on Inter Milan, class midfielders like Barella, and if Chiesa performs similarly to how he did in Euro 2020, we are in for a serious threat. So I'm not looking forward to playing Italy, but Croatia have never lost a competitive match to them since becoming independent. Maybe that means it will just finish in a draw, but I'm still saying Italy get third place, and unfortunately, Albania fourth. Please prove me wrong, Albania. Once again, I would love to see you guys go out along with Croatia, obviously, but I just think it's still going to be too difficult. All the other 3 teams in this group have not really been showing any signs of slowing down, and unfortunately, in this last international break, you guys have. It's interesting how in this last international break, they played Broja, who was sought out to be the best player for this nation, and they haven't played him all year in the qualifiers, and they're doing tremendously without him. Now that he's back, they've been struggling once again. So it'll be interesting to see how they end up lining up for the Euro tournament. With all that being said, I'm changing my mind on Italy's third place advancement. Yes, I'm still saying they get third place, but I'm saying they are one of the sides to advance to the knockouts that do get third. I think it's going to be very back and forth between all the top teams, so I think it'll be very narrow at the end. Next up, Group C with Slovenia, Denmark, Serbia, and England. My opinion's not changing. I think England will get first place in this. Yes, I have seen a lot of people complain about the last international break that they were playing dull football under Southgate, as they didn't manage to get a single win. They had 2 tough friendlies scheduled where they lost to Brazil and drew with Belgium. This has exposed them to have their tactics set up where they do struggle against top national teams. But against ones that they are better than on paper, they usually pull through. The individuality on this team is incredible, and that's why so many people are upset with this last international break, because expectations are so high. Jude Bellingham, one of the best midfielders in the world already. Declan Rice, Saka, Kane. The talent pool Southgate has to his disposal is next level, and he sometimes doesn't pick the best options. Maybe they will struggle in the knockouts, but I do not think it's going to happen in the group stage. England will get first place for me. The rest, though, is extremely unpredictable. This will be Serbia's first Euro tournament as an independent nation, so along with Georgia, they are also debutants technically. Their last international break was worrisome. They had a friendly scheduled against Russia where they lost 4-0 and then beat Cyprus 1-0. To be fair, they definitely were experimenting in that friendly against Russia and were not playing some of their strongest players. But it is still worrisome and embarrassing. Slovenia had an interesting last international break where they drew with Malta 2-2, a side that they should be beating, but then they beat Portugal 2-0. A massive confidence boost for the national team, as the last match Portugal lost was in the World Cup. Denmark with a draw to Switzerland and a 2-0 victory against the Faroe Islands. Slovenia and Denmark were in the same Euro qualifier group, where they drew at Denmark one time and then Denmark narrowly beat them the second. I think Slovenia have shown recently that they do have a solid defensive unit, and of course with Oblak in between the sticks, that's a massive boost. Serbia, on the other hand, is the complete opposite case. Their defense looks to be absolutely worrisome. I know they weren't playing their strongest lineup against Russia, but that was massive proof. They also still tend to leak loads of goals we saw in the last World Cup, but they do have an incredible attack force and midfield. I'm torn, but I'm saying Denmark gets second place. Yes, this side were an embarrassment in the last World Cup, but the Euros prior to that, they were semi-finalists. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with what I have to say about this. It's not what I want at all. I'm really rooting for both of these sides, but I do think Serbia will get third, Slovenia fourth, and Serbia will be one of the third place teams to not advance to the next round. This is a side that has still never made it to a knockout round in a major international competition as an independent nation. I see them maybe sharing points with Slovenia, but they're both just too down deep in the table and fail to qualify. Like I said, I really hope I'm wrong on that, but those are just my thoughts for now. England and Denmark are the only two sides to advance to the knockouts from this group. Moving on now to Group D, the first group where we're going to be seeing one of those newly qualified teams with Poland, Netherlands, France, and Austria. To me, this is the secondary group at death because France and Netherlands are already two massive European giants, and Austria have been massively improving. We saw in that Euro qualifier group, they heavily competed with Belgium, finishing second at the end, but with a very narrow point gap. And they had a phenomenal international break as well, defeating Slovakia 2-0 and Turkey 6-1. They have been on an absolute roll and show no signs of slowing down. I would not be surprised if this country can cause some kind of upset in this group. Even without one of their best players, David Alaba, who did tear his ACL, so he will be missing the Euros, they have still been excelling. They have a very underrated midfield unit with the likes of Schlager, Leimer, Seewald, Baumgartner. We just saw one of their striker options, Gregoric, score a hat-trick against Turkey. Ralf Rangnick is a perfect fit for the Austrian national team. He's getting the best out of them, and this is some of the best football we've been seeing this nation play in years. It's going to be a very tough lead against France and Netherlands, I know, but nothing's impossible with this side, and even if they do struggle against those two teams, I do think they could be one of those third place sides to advance to the knockouts. Netherlands in the last international break, like I already mentioned, defeated Scotland 4-0, but then lost to Germany 2-1, while France lost to Germany and then barely defeated Chile 3-2. Poland, the newly qualified team, did defeat Estonia 5-1, and then advanced over Wales on penalties in Cardiff, which is pretty impressive considering Wales' incredible home record. They were really heavily struggling in the past, but now they're looking to build themselves back up after sacking Santos, which was a brilliant idea. But I'm sorry, Poland, I think this group is way too tough. And in the last Euro tournament, you guys struggled in an even easier group. Poland are a side that do clinch up in qualifiers, but when it comes to the actual tournament, in at least recent years, they've been struggling. 2018 World Cup, Euro 2020, World Cup 2022, they did make it to the knockouts, but then got destroyed by France there. See, there's already another reoccurring matchup, and not to mention this group is way tougher than what they had in the World Cup. So, I'm sorry. For me, Poland are getting fourth place. The rest, though, I truly don't know. I think I'm still going to play it safe, though. Keep France at first place, Netherlands second, and Austria third, with, like I said, Austria advancing to the next round. We've already seen France get the best of Netherlands both times they faced them in the Euro qualifiers. They were in the same group then. Netherlands showing some inconsistencies from time to time throughout the year, but they still have an incredible crop of players that have been pushing through. I just do see them struggling against the likes of the top national teams in this tournament. So to me, France will defeat them, and maybe they can pull off a draw against Austria or narrowly beating them. With France being World Cup finalists last year as well, to me, they're one of the strongest teams in this tournament with the incredible depth they have. Kylian Mbappe is looking to redeem himself after the last Euro tournament, which was a nightmare for him, missing that penalty against Switzerland. My one concern though is, will Deschamps choose the right men for that depth? He already publicly said that he has his doubts on one of the best performing center backs this season, Saliba. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Austria gets second instead, Netherlands third, so that order flips around. But I'm going to keep it at this to be safe, I guess. We'll see how well that ages. Moving on now to Group E with Belgium, the new side Ukraine, Slovakia, and Romania. I went over it before. Belgium's golden generation has been disintegrating, but throughout that time, since the World Cup, we have seen more and more young talent excel. I think they're still in safe hands. Courtois will most likely be missing this tournament as he's recovering from surgery, but they've been playing most of the qualifier campaign without him, and they've been doing just fine. Their last two friendlies finished in draws, one to Ireland and one to England, but I don't think that's going to phase them. They're obviously still experimenting a lot of that young talent they possess. I think Belgium still have what it takes to top this group. Not to mention the veterans they already possess. De Bruyne and Lukaku will definitely contribute to this campaign. This is a group that they just should be able to handle. It would be surprising if they don't get first place, as most of these teams are considered underdogs. Slovakia and Romania had incredible qualifier campaigns. Slovakia, the only side they lost to in their group was Portugal. And Romania didn't lose a single match. They went undefeated. Their defensive record has been incredible. They did leak more goals in this last international break, where they drew with Northern Ireland 1-1, but then lost to Colombia 3-2. But the fact that they put up a good fight against an informed Colombia is impressive on its own. Meanwhile, Ukraine were the one side to not advance directly to the tournament. They had to go through that playoff round where they were already impressive in the group stage, but they got unlucky to be in a group with Italy and England. Sharing points with Italy at the end, they still managed to squeeze through in those qualifier playoffs, narrowly defeating Bosnia and narrowly defeating Iceland. They didn't play their absolute best in either of those matches, but still, they did the job, and I think they will continue to progress here. To me, their national team is actually incredible at the moment. Mudryk has been a difference maker for them many times, although sometimes he goes missing for Chelsea. Two Girona players, Dovbyk and Tsigankov, have been immense. Tsigankov basically replacing Yarmolenko, who was one of their key players in the past. Zinchenko hasn't been the same for the national team, but hopefully he can improve. They got a lot of great goalkeeper options. Trubin on Benfica, Lunin on Real Madrid. Would be criminal to not mention their youngster Sudakov, who has been immense. Maybe Ukraine will show some inconsistent patch in this tournament, but to me, they have what it takes to get second place, which didn't change in the last video. But for that third and fourth, I'm still torn about it. And last time I said one of those third place teams would go through. With Romania's impressive defensive displays, I think they have what it takes to get third place still, and unfortunately Slovakia fourth. It feels criminal to put any of these teams in fourth place, but somebody's got to be there. It's a difficult group to call apart from first place Belgium. But this time I'm saying that third place in this group do not advance to the next round. Slovakia also have incredible defensive players on paper, so I really think that matchup itself is going to be 50-50, but at the end, both of these sides struggle a bit too much throughout the rest of their matches, which is what puts them below, and whoever gets third to me is not going to advance. Now the final group, we're looking at Group F with Portugal, Georgia, Turkey, and Czech Republic. The last time I predicted Greece to go through. Georgia made a massive statement, defeating them on penalties in the Euro playoffs, and defeated Luxembourg prior to that 2-0. A true Euro debutant. It's going to be so exciting to see what they're made of in this group. I think they're put in a doable group, but it's going to be tough regardless. Since Czech Republic has become an independent nation, it has been back and forth every single time as to how well they do. One year, they make it far in the knockouts. The first year, in fact, they were runners-up, then group stage, then semi-finalists, then group stage, then quarterfinalists, then group stage, then quarterfinalists again. So if this pattern continues, they're finishing in the group stage. But at the same time, it shows you really can't count out this side. They're either going to exceed in this tournament or absolutely flop. And against their opponents, they definitely have a solid shout to make it to the next round. They were slightly disappointing in the Euro qualifiers, though, I have to say. Still advancing, but one of the results was a 3-0 defeat against Albania. This last international break, they picked up 2 wins against Norway and Armenia, while Turkey, the most inconsistent and unpredictable national team, has unfortunately had a terrible international break, losing to Hungary 1-0, and then, like I said, losing to Austria 6-1. Portugal picked up their first loss since the end of 2022 against Slovenia, which was a bit of a surprise. But to me, with the quality they have, you shouldn't necessarily judge them off that one friendly match. They've just improved so much over the years. They're looking like an incredibly balanced team, an incredible generation of players at the moment. they're going to get first place in this group, I'd say. The rest, though, is seriously tough. I'm starting to doubt Turkey after that 6-1 defeat to Austria, but again, they go through a terrible rough patch of form, then pick themselves back up immensely, and then randomly fall off again. So we'll see if that incredible form comes up once this tournament begins. Very surprised about this result. I'm not surprised Austria won, but by this margin is insane. With Güler really proving himself after recovering from that injury. Çalhanoğlu has been amazing for Inter Milan, but people do complain about him for the Turkish national team. In general, too tough to judge Turkey on their previous results. And Georgia are going to be serious underdogs themselves. One of the biggest rises in an individual player, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, can definitely make a difference. Prior to this Euro qualifier campaign, they were on a roll in the Nations League. They almost won all their matches in 2022. Sure, their record was not the same in the Euro qualifiers, but they were in a difficult group. With their Nations League success, they still excelled in those playoffs. I think they can definitely at least get a draw against the likes of Turkey or Czech Republic, but maybe just not enough to advance to the next round. I'm rooting for you, Georgia. I really am. I always love to see the underdog story. Maybe they can have an incredible debutant tournament just like Iceland did in 2016. At the moment, I'm still going to go for Turkey second despite having a terrible international break, Czech Republic third, and Georgia fourth place. No matter what happens for Georgia, though, they should be proud that they're in this tournament in the first place, and I'm very excited to see if they can continue that fighting spirit and carry on with some kind of results here. But there you have it, guys. Those are all of my updated Euro 2024 predictions. If you want to see me do a knockout bracket for this, like I said, please hit that like button. If we hit 5,000 likes, I'll upload that as soon as I can. And like I said, make sure you subscribe to the channel as there will be a lot more Euro 2024 content. Let me know your thoughts as always down below. I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. La con noche.